Tuesday of this conference championship week for you Philadelphia Eagles fans. We're starting to get into previewing the matchup a bit already. I know it's early in the week. We usually don't do this till later. But I guess for me, I got to get something off my chest here. And it has to do with a certain quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. By the way, Micah Parsons, that is the system quarterback, not Jalen Hurts. He is the system. Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback, Tone DeShields. I like Brock Purdy. I liked him in college. I have said multiple times on this show and on other shows, when Brock Purdy was drafted, number 262 overall, I actually thought he was drafted already. I thought he was going to be a fifth-round pick. I'm like, wait, he wasn't picked yet? You kidding me? Brock Purdy? He's got an arm. He's got some swagger to him. I think he could make an NFL roster. The guy that made the 49ers over the unstoppable Nate Sudfeld is starting in the NFC Championship game against Jalen Hurts. But yet, I think people are getting too caught up in the story. 7th-round pick, 1 win away from the Super Bowl, 7-0 in his 7 starts. But I got to tell you, a lot of those starts, Tone DeShields, it's not like he was facing world beaters, and he's proven me wrong every single time so far this year, for the most part. I thought Washington would give him a good pass rush. They didn't. He torched them. I thought Seattle would give him a better look the second time around. No. I thought the Cowboys would bring him down to earth. They did, in a sense. Their pass rush did get to him, put him off his spots, but he won the game. Now he's facing a pass rush with 75 sacks, including the postseason, which is third most in NFL history. Call me a doubter. Call me whatever. I need to see it Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying the same thing. Matter of fact, I'll say this. I'll say the same thing I said about Daniel Jones. I understand Daniel Jones had this great game against the Vikings. I understand Brock Purdy's been on this winning streak with the 49ers team, a roster that's literally quarterback proof, right? You can throw a raccoon back there, and they'll figure it out. But again, I'm going to give him the same treatment I gave Daniel Jones. I don't care what they say about you. You got to come to Philly and show me. You got to show me that you can get it done in this environment, because I've looked at that schedule, and I really hate using someone's schedule against them because they don't choose it. They just play it, right? So I'm not going to do that. He's won the games. He's shown that he can run that system. Actually, he's shown that he can run it a bit better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Not worlds better, but a bit better. And, he's won 2 playoff games. 2 playoff games, right?
As many as Dak Prescott.
So I'm going to give credit where credit is due. But now you're going up against the second best defense in the NFL behind your own defense. So you haven't even played anything close to this. I mean, sure, maybe Dallas because of that pass rush, and I believe Dallas did provide some level of a blueprint for him because they were only able to put up 19 points. So he's very flawed. He's very limited, believe it or not. But I'm going to give him the same treatment that I gave Daniel Jones. I don't care what they say about you. You got to come to Philly and show me.
This is my philosophy on this whole thing. And this is just picking the game, right? I'm not even going off of, and it's too early to make a pick. I think people know where I'm going to be leaning here. But I like what a friend told me about this game. One team is Jalen Hurts, and the other doesn't. And if we want to play the Chris Sims game.
The Chris Sims game, please, man. He's a G. At this point, he's embarrassing himself.
If the 49ers had Jalen Hurts, they would be clear-cut favorites in this game.
But no one has that conversation, Jeff. Why is that? Why does it always seem like Jalen Hurts is the topic of discussion when he's having some level of success? Just look at his record. He's winning. He wins, period. I don't care what you – see, I could probably understand people saying what they said if he wasn't winning as much, right? But he's been the difference maker in every single game he's played. We've seen games where he hasn't played and how the team looked. They don't look as efficient. They look clunky. Every play looks like a chore to be successful at. It takes a month of Sundays to move the ball. We've seen this system, this offense without him. He is the system. So Chris Sims continuing to die on his ledge, like, to add context to what we're saying, you guys, and Jeff, I'm pretty sure you'll fill this in. He still, after Jalen Hurts cooked Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, he still believes Daniel Jones is a better thrower of the football. He still thinks he's a better quarterback. And I can't help but to realize, or can't help but to wonder, why does he still think that after we've seen it? We've seen it. We've seen more bad Daniel Jones than good, Jeff. Let's be honest.
Daniel Jones has played more games than he threw touchdown passes this season.
Come on.
I don't understand some logic. I think some people don't like to be proven wrong, even though they're wrong. I still think people are wrong about Joe Burrow. I think people want to believe that Joe Burrow, I think a lot of people knew Joe Burrow was going to be a good quarterback. I don't think they thought he'd be this good of a quarterback. And you kind of saw it this year in Miami with Tua Tagovailoa, right? People had a hard time admitting Tua Tagovailoa was pretty good because they wanted to blame him and his delivery and, whatever the reason was, right? They didn't want to believe Tyreek Hill. They didn't want to believe Jalen Waddle. They didn't want to believe Mike McDaniel. And what's Tua Tagovailoa do? He leaves the NFL in passer rating. And, he's moving the goalposts. Well, he didn't play every game. Well, he qualified to lead the league in passer rating.
If he qualifies, he qualifies.
Exactly. I don't know what you want. It's like Jalen Hurts. People did not want to believe this guy was a second-round pick. People did not want to admit Howie Roseman was right by moving on from Carson Wentz and giving the keys to the franchise to Jalen Hurts. And a lot of people wanted to point out that playoff game last year against Tampa Bay when the defense was just making fun of him. As a former defensive player, now, granted, I did not play in college or the NFL, but we used to make fun of the opposing team's quarterback. If we're doing that in high school, I know pros are doing it. That's just the competitive nature of it.
And Daniel Jones has been made fun of quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So let's really pump the brakes on this guy again. Like, there are people who they've seen one game from this man, and all of a sudden he's the second coming. Oh, Daniel Jones has arrived. It took one game to change your opinion about Daniel Jones. I know he's had a fair season this year, but what he did this year, Jalen Hurts did that last year. Okay, the only difference is the only difference was a favorable playoff matchup. That was the only difference. Because I had the Giants winning that game. I know a lot of people probably don't. I had them winning that game. It was I didn't think it took that much thought because the Vikings were pretenders all year, and I knew that. So when I knew the Giants matched up with them, I told myself the Giants had that game. I knew how the first game went. The Giants are going to win this game. I believe that for a fact. And so maybe I'm approaching it from a perspective of I'm not going to give them credit for something I already knew, but Daniel Jones has given us more below average football than good football. Jalen Hurts has given us more above average football than bad football. And yet people still believe, like Chris Sims, that they're on the same level. They're breathing the same air. He even went as far as to say, well, if you put Daniel Jones on the Eagles in that game, I mean, Daniel Jones is going to win that game. Well, it's a talent disparity on the rosters. But why is it, I tweeted this morning, right? No one questions, and obviously Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, right? But no one questions Joe Burrow's talent due to the people he has around him. Despite knowing that we've never seen him without talent. At LSU, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, he comes to the league. He had Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and then he got hurt, so we really didn't get to see the full product. Then the following season, he comes back. He has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, right? He has a tight end, right? He has a running back. We've never seen Joe Burrow without talent, but no one asked that question. No one begs that question. Oh, I wonder how someone else will look in this system. It's so funny to me how when it's Jalen Hurts, people have these like you said, they move the goalposts.
What bothered me about all this, they say you take away Stephon Diggs, what's Josh Allen? Take away Tyreek Hill, what's Patrick Mahomes? There was a time where I would just pound sand because I used to be absolutely furious, and I loved Kurt Warner when he played. But Kurt Warner played with Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, you name it. And he was dominant, absolutely dominant, deserved all the MVPs, whatever. And I said, I really want to know how good this guy is when you take these guys away from him. He went to the Giants. Miles Turner was a good player. Tiki Barber, good player. But they weren't Hall of Famers. They weren't on that level. And he wasn't that good. Then he goes to Arizona. Anquan Bolden, probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. Larry Fitzgerald will be in the Hall of Fame. All of a sudden, he's going to get, Kurt Warner's a Hall of Famer. Why? Why? When you took players away from him, he sucked. But he's a Hall of Famer. I don't understand this. And maybe this is younger Jeff coming to terms with older Jeff here. But I'm looking at it as, why are we diminishing somebody for the talent they have around them? And I don't get it. You didn't want to make this argument 20 years ago. Now you want to make it now? I'm sorry Jalen Hurts has A.J. Brown. I'm sorry he has Devonta Smith. I'm sorry he has Miles Sanders. I'm sorry he has the best offensive line in football. Deal with it. Like, he's really good. Oh, by the way, Jalen Hurts is really good too. I just don't think people want to admit Jalen Hurts may be going to the Super Bowl, or Jalen Hurts could potentially win a Super Bowl.
If he wins it will kill them. It will kill them. And I want him to win it so bad, Jeff.
Yeah. So it's like when Nick Foles made the run, right? No one wanted to admit Nick Foles could win a Super Bowl. Nick Foles could do what he did. I argued with one of our draft analysts at CBS. He told me Tyrod Taylor was a better quarterback than Nick Foles. And he stood by it after Nick Foles won. I said, how can you say that? Well, put Tyrod Taylor on that team like they would have lost to the Falcons.
Easily.
I don't understand this. You got to double down to prove a point. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times on here. I have apologized to Cincinnati people all week for ranking the Bengals 6 out of my 8 playoff teams. It wasn't anything personal. I just said because of the offensive line. Well, they proved me wrong. And now I might pick them to beat the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are probably going to prove me wrong this week. It's a cycle. I'm not saying I don't think my word is God.
I'm with you on that. And I actually think the Bengals will beat them. I had the Eagles and the Bengals in the Super Bowl all year. I don't know. It's just something about that Bengal team. I can't help but to rock with them. I like Joe Burrow. I like that team. I also like the uniforms. I always have been a Bengals guy in terms of their uniforms. The helmet's pretty sick. But there's this weird narrative that just circles around the NFL about guys and who they play with, as if they have control over that situation. Now, look, we've seen Jalen Hurts, specifically him, in a season where he had a borderline number 1 wide receiver, a young rookie in Devonta Smith. At that time, he was probably a mid-tier number 1. And we've seen him with a top 5 tight end. We've seen him with a pretty decent offensive line. We've seen him not having a good defense, and that materialized into a 9-8 record and making the playoffs. So
they overachieved that season.
So some people will argue they overachieved, right? And I think that's pretty fair, especially with a new coach, new quarterback. There's always some growing pains with that. Yet they still was able to get into the playoffs. He deserves credit for that. Period. We've seen his floor. His floor is that 9-8 record. We've seen it. Then you add him. You give him a bona fide top 5 wide receiver, especially this year. That's been proven. And also, people don't want to discuss the fact that he's elevated his game in the offseason. Like, don't think that just because you add this guy, he just automatically gets better. That's not how this works. We've seen quarterbacks with talent and they still suck. We've seen it. So it's so hard for people to fathom or even do the math on the fact that he did the legwork in the offseason. He's put in that work. He has to throw that ball from point A to point B. But because they don't like how it looks, they don't like his style. That's how they frame it, right? And my thing is, he's getting the job done. He wins. Sure, he may never lead the league in passing yards. Sure, he may never lead the league in passing touchdowns. All those bloviated categories that people want to use to grade quarterbacks. Sure. But is he winning? Is he winning? You can make an argument that during Tom Brady's career, he was never the most talented quarterback at any point in his career. You can make an argument for that. But doesn't matter. People don't talk about that. Right? Aaron Rodgers, the most talented guy, won Super Bowl. And on top of that, you took away Devontae Adams. You saw how he looked. He was still one of the better quarterbacks, but he wasn't as effective. So let's just stop it with this narrative about who guys have around them. It's really a waste of time. It's disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful because it completely diminishes the work these guys put in. It diminishes how committed they are to the game, and it also diminishes the other facets of the game that matter. Like, I'm a firm believer that football is about 85 to 90% mental and the rest of it is physical. It's easy to work out. It's easy to stay in shape. But the mentals, that's the harder part, in my opinion. What say you, Jeff?
No, I agree with you there. I mean, to me, it was all, I wasn't exactly the biggest guy. I mean, I was a little bit bigger in high school at about 40 more pounds. But to me, my advantage always was knowing what gap I needed to go in, knowing where I had to get to the quarterback, knowing the quarterback's tendencies. I was a big film guy. So this is why I don't like all 22 people. Well, this. I'm like, I didn't have all 22 and I could see, a certain tendency out of a quarterback or a certain tendency out of a lineman, etc. And you studied that and you prepared. And this is back in the mid 2000s here. This isn't like today where it seems like you got everything at your fingertips and everything at your iPad. There wasn't an iPad. So, yeah, I would agree with that. And Jalen Hurts, he's a student of the game. He just is. Like, he's that guy. He wants to maximize every single opportunity he has. And I agree with Nick Sirianni yesterday. This moment isn't going to be too big for him. He's played in national championship games. He's played in Big 12 championship games. He knows what to do. This is what he trains for. Jalen Hurts ain't going to pat himself on the back because he won a playoff game. He's not going to pat himself on the back because the Eagles are one of the Final Four teams. He's still hungry. Like, he's close to the beehive, Tone. He can taste the honey.
Definitely. And the ability to galvanize the troops is a trait that we cannot take for granted. We've seen poor leadership in this NFL. We've seen it and how it affects teams, right? The ability to bring the most out of your teammates, out of your players is a skill, right? Leadership is a skill. You can learn to be a better leader, but there's some guys who are just natural born leaders. That's where Jalen Hurts comes in. And again, this guy Chris Sims, man, like I used to I respect everybody. Let me make that clear. I respect everybody, but I'm starting to lose. He's starting to lose credibility to me. You can't continue to die on this hill that Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts when we've seen the result. We've seen the results. So, look, I'll leave it at that, man. We have our guy Mark Farzetta coming up next, man. This is going to be really exciting, man, because Farzi always brings the energy. Mark Farzetta, the host of The Farzi Show, also the host of the JAKIB Sports pregame and halftime show. You guys can always check that on any game day, man, live. He does amazing work. Him and Derek Gunn and Seth Joyner, him and Devin Caney, they kill it every single weekend. So make sure you guys always lock in on that. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy,